What's up everybody, and welcome to Retro Gaming Challenges. My name is Keith. In today's video, well, it's a bit of a different one. We're going to be looking at a game that had an incredible premise, but sadly delivered a decidedly shaken, not stirred experience. We're diving into the world of 2000's 007 racing for the PS1. The late 90s and early 2000s were a golden age for James Bond video games. We had the revolutionary GoldenEye 007 and a spiritual sequel, Tomorrow Never Dies. But in the year 2000, EA Games, who held the Bond license at the time, decided to try something completely different. They took the world's most famous secret agent, shoved him exclusively behind the wheel of his iconic gadget cars, and called it 007 Racing. The pitch was simple: be Bond behind the wheel, driving the Aston Martin DB5, the Lotus Spirit, the BMW Z8, all kitted out with Q Branch's best machine guns, missiles, oil slicks and smoke screens. It was a driver or twisted metal style combat racer with a mission structure lifted straight from the spy films. The reality though was a game that felt like it had a great idea but crashed on the tarmac due to terrible controls, murky graphics and a core concept that didn't fully realise its potential. Today we'll peel back the layers on this often forgotten title to see if it deserves a spot in the Animals of Forgotten Classics, or it's merely a clunker best left in Q's scrap heap. Let the mission begin. 007 Racing attempts to be a mission-based objective driver. Unlike traditional racing games like Gran Turismo or Ridge Racer, the goal wasn't just to finish first, but to complete spy objectives, pursuit, evasion, escort and destruction. The game itself has about 12 missions, loosely tied together by a threadbare plot, involving a high-ranking European diplomat and a businessman who's planned to hijack the shipment of NATO weapons. James Bond is voiced by a sound-alike, but we do get a fantastic appearance by John Cleese as R, the new head of Q Branch, who is tasked with stopping this plot, one mission at a time. The entire story is delivered through text before each mission, with only a few cutscenes at the beginning and the end, which is a bit of a major missed opportunity for a cinematic franchise like Bond. This is the game's undeniable draw. You get to drive a collection of Bond's legendary vehicles, such as the Aston Martin DB5 from Goldfinger, which is the classic car equipped with machine guns, smoke screens and oil slicks. The nostalgic draw is immense. Then there's the Lotus Spirit Turbo from For Your Eyes Only, which is known for its skis and torpedoes in other games, but here it often features a bit more of a high-speed profile. There's also some BMWs in the shape of a 7 Series, a Z8 and a Z3, and each car is supposedly re-engineered by the Q Branch for the mission at hand. You swap between machine guns, rockets, oil slicks and even specialised items like a cutting laser to slice the tyres of a car transport or an EMP device to destroy factory computers. The sheer arsenal available is fantastic on paper. Being able to fire two weapons simultaneously by holding R2 and pressing R1 feels appropriately 007. The problem though, no matter how many Stinger missiles you have, they're all being deployed by a vehicle that handles like a drunken forklift. This is where 007 Racing veers sharply off the road and into a deep, muddy ditch. The implementation of the core driving and combat mechanics is profoundly flawed. The main source of player frustration, including mine, was the car handling. Reviewers at the time often called the controls appalling, clunky and overly sensitive. The cars are extremely sensitive to steering input, especially when using the D-pad, so making minute adjustments is a real massive challenge. One long push and your car flies uncontrollably in that direction, often leading to immediate impact with the environment. Collision detection is where the game truly becomes a retro gaming challenge. The collision detection is notoriously awful. You hit invisible walls, bouncing off objects, and at odd angles when you do it, you generally struggle to navigate the environment cleanly. This only adds to the absurdity trying to overrun or shoot pedestrian characters. It often results in bullets passing right through them, or the character simply turning invisible. A truly broken bit of programming that breaks any sense of immersion. The weapon aiming is up next, and for non-homing missiles you aim by steering the car itself, so this turns a high-speed chase into a painful minuet where you must constantly choose between maintaining control of the car and aiming at the target. The auto-aim and Stinger missiles are a necessity, but the slow lock-on process means you're still driving and doing a lot of driving without paying attention to the road. For a game released in the year 2000, 007 Racing simply looked and felt outdated, especially when compared to things like Driver 2 and other things that were released at that time. The visuals are murky, grainy and low resolution. Pop-up is rampant, with elements of the environment suddenly appearing on the horizon. The textures are blurry and the environments themselves feel very sparse and blocky. One of the amusing flaws is that when your car takes damage, the dents and scuffs also somehow appear on the driver's face in the small head-up display portrait, suggestion that a lack of armor protection was not just limited to the vehicle. Level design has environments which span across exotic locales like Eastern Europe, New York City, Mexico and Louisiana, and are often generic and repetitive. While the object-based mission structure is novel, the actual driving paths are uninspiringly, and they force you to constantly reverse or correct due to poor planned obstacles and confusing layouts. This repetitive, frustrating design contributes heavily to the game's low critical scores. The soundtrack is one saving grace that almost every reviewer pointed to. The music score, featuring classical Bond motifs and cinematic new tracks, it's genuinely excellent. It successfully sets the mood and provides the espionage atmosphere for the gameplay itself, but the gameplay fails to deliver. As many noted, fantastic soundtrack doesn't make up for a fundamentally broken game. To truly understand the challenge of 007 Racing, let's look at a few of the mission highlights and lowlights. Mission 1 is Escape to the Border. So this game kicks off with Bond rescuing Cherise Litte and getting her over the border in the iconic DB5. The flaw? This mission immediately introduces you to the sensitive handling. You're trying to evade enemy jeeps while navigating slow, narrow, snow-dusted roads. A minor steering connection sends you careering into a tree, forcing a restart and quickly demonstrating that this is not going to be a smooth ride. There's also another mission further down when you're in New York. The concept is a high-speed pursuit where you must use your specialised undercar cutting laser to slice the tyres of a massive car transport driven by the villain Whisper. The challenge is actually successfully manoeuvring your vehicle directly under the transport, which is a challenge in itself due to the controls, while deploying the precision laser is a perfect storm of the game's flaws. This is a level where the idea of being Bond is pure gold, but the execution is misery. Escaping Mexico is the infamous moment. So this level often involved a broken bridge. Players who failed to pay attention to the minimal on-screen text missed the cue to engage as the car's parachute gadget. Yes, a parachute. Often hearing the required dialogue or sound effect only after they had already launched themselves into the chasm. So this kind of awkward, badly timed objective delivery is rife throughout the game and just gets so annoying. The critical consensus on 007 Racing was damning. It averaged a Metascore 51, putting it squarely in the mixed or average category, which is being generous, I think. IGN famously called it the game that the Timothy Dalton version of Bond games. It's not original, no, it's not good looking. This referenced the more understated and less commercially successful era of the films. Reviewers often concluded that the fans of objective-based driving games would be better served with Driver 2, and that the game simply failed to rise above the mediocrity despite its licensed pedigree. This game is a case study in which happens when you attempt to shoehorn a beloved license into a dated, rough engine with insufficient polish. The concept is a mission-based, gadget-laden combat racer was absolutely solid and perhaps even ahead of its time, but the foundation was just too weak. So where does 007 Racing sit today on retro gaming challenges? It's got a bizarre cult classic following. It's certainly not a good game by any objective metric, but for a true Bond fanatic, there is a certain perseverance, satisfaction in finally getting to drive those legendary cars and deploy those gadgets from Q Branch, even if the driving is terrible. It represents a period where EA was still struggling to find out what a Bond game should be, leading to this oddity that sits between the excellence of GoldenEye and the eventually smoother third-person shooters that followed. It's ambitious, it's frustrating, and is absolutely a challenge. If you consider yourself a true Bond fan, the retro gaming challenge here is to beat this game without once yelling in frustration at the controls. I couldn't do it. It's a mission worthy of 007's best stunts, or perhaps even his most painful failures. Thank you for joining me on this retro gaming challenges for this look at 007 Racings. Let me know in the comments below which car in 007 Racing gives you the most trouble, And did you ever manage to complete that infamous highway hazard mission? If you did, let me know. As always, remember to like, subscribe and tune in for more retro gaming challenges. There's some more retrospectives on screen now if you want to watch those for more content from the channel. But until next time, see ya.